Welcome to the 15th week of this year's In Times Like These recap. Now, let's get into this. Starting with Nichelle Torres, who runs into her ex, Zeke Franklin, in the hallway of her home, Theodosius's palace. She asks Zeke what he wants. He begins to ask Nichelle how Devante is doing. She tells Zeke that it's none of his business. Then Zeke asks Nichelle how she's doing, causing her to reply with the same answer. Zeke tells Nichelle that she was the first person he thought of when news broke out about Devante's shooting. Nichelle replies by telling Zeke how he should have thought of something else, stating that he clearly didn't think about her when he cheated on her with Yvette. He makes it clear that he only thought about how hurt Nichelle would be if she found out. Since he informs her that he thought about it, Nichelle asks her ex why he proceeded to do so. Zeke reminds Nichelle that he can't control himself, but Nichelle reminds Zeke that he always has a choice and that he chose to be unfaithful, asking Zeke to leave. At the Russo estate, Isidore Russo runs into his ex, Isabel Torres, informing her that he can't stop thinking about the time they hooked up, wondering how they're going to move forward. She states that she's unsure. He goes on to state that after all of the years they've been separated, they clearly can't keep their hands off of one another. Isabel tells Isidore that it's their history together, but Isidore adds that it's the love they shared together. She tries telling Isidore that they're at a point in their lives where emotions aren't clear, and because of that, they're being irrational. Isidore tells Isabel how he doesn't care how irrational it is, expressing how much he missed being with her. Isabel tells Isidore not to say anything further, reminding him how much has changed in their lives after they broke up. Isidore goes on to state how one thing hasn't changed, and it's that they're the loves of each other's lives. The response which Isabel gives is by reminding him how he's only saying that out of emotion and nostalgia, feeling like he doesn't mean it. Isidore tells Isabel that he means every word, telling her not to deny that she feels the same way. Isabel tells Isidore that the conversation is over. As she walks off, he pleads with Isabel to wait, grabbing her hand. The two gaze into each other's eyes, passionately kiss, but are interrupted as Isidore gets a notification on his phone. Sensing that something is wrong, she asks Isidore what's going on. He spits out Alan's name. After Adaku Danjuma is interviewed by Quinlan Franklin, she meets with fellow mobster Wade and the other mob families, questioning if they had anything to do with her true identity being leaked to the public. Wade and the other heads of the families inform Adaku that they had nothing to do with her identity being leaked. When Wade tells her to check her business associates, she pulls a gun out on him, feeling like his suggestion is suspicious. He asks Adaku to put the gun down to avoid a war. When she does as Wade asks, he urges her to think about whether it's a possibility that someone in her organization or an associate turned against her. This is when Adaku wonders if Devante is the one who betrayed her. At the hospital, Dr. Terry Burke visits Devante Torres' room, revealing to her that he is no longer in a coma. Yet, he confuses the doctor when he informs her that no one could know that he's awake. When she questions why, Devante refuses to answer, asking Terry to get a hold of his son, Pacho. Pacho arrives at the hospital, wondering if Devante passed away. Terry informs Pacho that Devante is alive and wants to speak with him. As Pacho is in Devante's room, Devante admits to his son that he's not as invincible as he thought, telling Pacho that if something were to happen to him, then he would need him to take over Theodosius's palace. Terry Burke surprises her husband Finnegan at his office at the police station. Just as he asks his wife what she wants, Terry informs her husband that she knows that he's having an affair with Harley Drake. At first, Finnegan denies it, but she informs him that she saw the two lovers kissing at the courthouse, threatening to go to the board to report Harley. As soon as Finnegan tells Terry that she would only look foolish reporting Harley without any proof, she sends a picture to Finnegan's phone of him kissing Harley. He begins to ask Terry what she wants. She tells Finnegan that she wants him to give her full custody of Kyiv. When he tells Terry how that's not happening, she responds by telling him that his lawyer will just lose her law license. Terry proceeds to ask if he actually cares about Harley not being able to practice law again. Finnegan goes on to remind Terry that he got with Harley after they broke up, feeling like Harley shouldn't have to suffer because of her hatred for him. Her only wish is that she wins sole custody of Kiev so that she could prevent him from growing up like Finnegan, telling Finnegan that he has a choice to make. He tells Terry that he'll do as she asks. Before Terry walks off, she guesses that Finnegan must really love Harley. At Russo Jewelers, Vivian Jones enters her nephew Alan's office, asking if his rant about his theory of Devante being a home intruder was what Isidore disagreed with. Alan tells Vivian that in time, everything will make sense. As soon as Vivian asks Alan what he's got planned, Isidore barges in, scolding his son for disobeying him. While the two argue with one another, Isidore gets furious to the point where he slaps Alan across the face. Since Alan is speechless, Isidore reminds his son that just because he's an adult doesn't mean he gets to disrespect him, asking if Alan understands. Frustrated, Alan states that he does. Isidore leaves after apologizing to Vivian about what she witnessed. When Isidore walks off, Vivian asks Alan if he's okay. Alan states that he is, telling her that his father can smack him around all he'd like, feeling like it won't change the fact that he's right. Since Alan isn't looking at Vivian's direction, she smirks at the fact that the family is becoming divided. Ben tells Quinlan that he doesn't care what happens to Devante. Since Ben is the one who found Elvira, and with the fact that Devante took her life, she was concerned about how he was taking it. Ben tells Quinlan that he hopes she wasn't trying to take this as a chance for him to cry on her shoulder. Quinlan is adamant that she didn't come by to manipulate his emotions. In Devante's hospital room, Nichelle stands by her father's side, but is caught by surprise when Adaku enters. Confused, Nichelle asks Adaku what she's doing at the hospital room. Adaku introduces herself as Adaku Danjuma. Nichelle tells Adaku how she knows who she is, questioning why she's in the room. Adaku tells Nichelle that she and Devante go way back. Then Nichelle questions why Devante would have any connections to her, mentioning the rumors about Adaku and her family. In response, Adaku tells Nichelle that she shouldn't believe everything she hears. She goes on to question if she can have some alone time with Devante. Nichelle questions why Adaku needs to spend time with Devante when he's clearly not awake. Adaku tells Nichelle how it would be much better since Nichelle wouldn't stay with a total stranger. When Nichelle reluctantly leaves, Devante wakes up, asking Adaku if she lost her mind. Alan meets up with his mother Harley, telling her how there are days when he wishes that she won full custody of him, crying in her arms. When she asks her son what happened, Alan informs her of his disagreement with Isidore and how Isidore ended up slapping him. He goes on to inform his mother that he and Isidore plan to take over Theodosius's palace. Harley expresses her concern of her son making an enemy out of Devante Torres. Just as Alan is confused by his mother's concern, Finnegan knocks on her door, asking to speak with her. When Alan asks Harley why Finnegan is outside of her hotel room, wondering why she won't ask the police commissioner to leave, Harley asks for a moment with Finnegan. Outside of the hotel room, Harley informs her lover that Alan is inside, asking what's wrong. Finnegan informs her that Terry found out about the two of them and that she wants full custody of Kiev in exchange for her silence. When Harley asks Finnegan what he decided to do, he informs her that he agreed to give up custody of Kiev, which makes Harley feel guilty. Finnegan tells Harley that she has nothing to feel guilty for, explaining that he would never forgive himself if she lost the chance to practice law because of him, admits to Harley that he loves her, then walks off. Udell arrives at Owen's office, and just as Owen asks Udell what he needs, Udell tells Owen that he needs to give Wanda some space because of the upcoming trial. Just as Owen questions if Wanda should be able to decide that for herself, Heidi walks in, asking if everything is okay. Udell decides to leave. Then Heidi asks Owen what the conversation was about. He replies that it was a private conversation, asking her to leave so that he can continue to work. Heidi apologizes, then leaves, smirking at the thought that her plans are going well. Terry calls Isidore, informing him that Devante has woken up and has decided to keep it a secret to everyone, except for Pacho. When Isidore questions why Devante has been keeping it a secret, Terry suggests that it could involve Adaku Danjuma. She goes to reveal that Adaku visited Devante at the hospital. As soon as Isidore questions how the two could be connected, Terry replies by reminding him of the boy who lost his life on spring break. She adds that his plans of taking over Theodosius's palace are in peril since Devante has decided to give Pacho the keys to the kingdom, which Isidore is pleased with. This causes Terry to question if she can stop pretending to be Devante's friend. Isidore answers that Devante took Elvira's life and still needs someone on the inside in case Devante slips up. At the high school, Nichelle approaches Zeke, asking him to spill about what he knows about Adaku and her father. Zeke tries telling Nichelle that he doesn't know what she's talking about. She goes on to plead with him not to lie to her, informing her that Adaku stopped by Devante's hospital room the other day. Since Nichelle knows that Adaku is rumored to be the one behind the Trank issue in town, she begins to ask Zeke if he knew that Adaku was the one supplying the product. Zeke responds by telling Nichelle that the less she knows, the better. Nichelle asks Zeke what he knows, pointing out that the overdose at Theodosius's palace was no coincidence. As soon as Zeke tells Nichelle that she should ask her father, she reminds Zeke that she's asking him, wondering if he's actually going to refuse to give her any answers. Zeke answers, that's exactly what he'll do. Nichelle begins to tell him that if her dad is in some sort of danger, then she should know. He begins to ask Nichelle what makes her think that her father's in danger. She tells Zeke that she doesn't know what to think since he won't tell her anything. Zeke informs her that he's not telling her anything to protect her, explaining that he'd rather have her annoyed than hurt, walking away from Nichelle. The Dorval family welcomes JJ back home, but he has a somber attitude. Shelley points out that she doesn't blame JJ for being distant, since they just watched him get dragged out of their own home, wondering if JJ will have another breakdown in the future. Raymond reminds Jeremiah and Shelley that when they found out that JJ was sick, that they knew it wouldn't be easy. Shelley points out that as his parents, they didn't make things easier. Jeremiah goes on to remind Shelley that he apologized. When Raymond asks his son what he has to apologize for, Jeremiah informs him that it's a possibility that sharing with the world how dangerous Devante is caused JJ to have a mental breakdown, which led to Devante being shot. Raymond tells the couple how JJ needs them to stay united and not against each other. When Raymond walks off, Shelley tells Jeremiah how she was out of line for telling Raymond. Jeremiah points out that Raymond and even Vanessa knew that something was wrong, pointing out that Raymond was right, and that for JJ's sake, they have to set aside their differences. She adds that for their son's sake, they also have to make sure that they don't do anything that can set him back, walking away from Jeremiah. At Heidi Russo's office, she and Finnegan ask Zeke what update he has for them. He informs them how Nichelle is getting suspicious and need to find out a way to keep her out of harm's way. Zeke adds that Adaku spoke with Nichelle as she visited Devante, pointing out that Nichelle and the rest of the Torres family could be in danger. Heidi begins to wonder why Adaku would visit Devante in the hospital since he hasn't woken up. Finnegan points out that she wouldn't check up on him out of the kindness of her heart, wondering if Devante woke up. Zeke questions why Devante would still pretend to be in a coma. Heidi reminds Zeke that he's not supposed to be asking questions. Frustrated, Zeke reminds them how Nichelle could be in danger and can't let her find out about Adaku's connection with Devante. Finnegan assures Zeke that they won't let anyone get hurt. Just as Zeke asks what's going to be done to keep that from happening, Heidi tells Zeke to let them worry about it, asking Zeke to find out whether Devante is awake. When Zeke asks why he has to be the one to confirm it, Heidi points out that they could possibly another charge against him since Devante was shot as an intruder. Zeke wonders if Devante would feel like it's a bit suspicious. Finnegan feels like Zeke has a point, stating that if Devante is awake, then he'll have to prove to everyone that he'll pull through. Heidi decides to change her mind, but tells Zeke to let them know the moment he hears anything new about Devante's condition, reminding him that securing his and Adaku's conviction will keep Nichelle and her family safe. Devante surprises Isabel and Ulissa by showing that he's awake. Devante expresses that he thought Isabel and Ulissa would be happy to see that he'll live to see another day. Ulissa expresses that she is glad to see him, informing her father that she's been praying for him. After Ulissa hugs Devante, she asks him if he got shot because he was threatening the Dorvals. Nichelle tells Ulissa how this isn't the right time. Then Devante changes the subject by thanking Isabel for visiting him. When Isabel asks Devante how long he had been awake, he lies and states that he just woke up. Devante begins to ask for water, then Ulissa and Isabel agree to get him something to drink. When Nachela is alone with her father, she asks him how he knows Adaku Denjuma. Devante claims that he only knew Adaku as Adaku Bello, lying to his daughter and telling her that he had nothing to do with illegal activities. Terry is caught by surprise when Harley arrives in her office, confronting Terry about blackmailing Finnegan. Harley goes on to plead with Terry, explaining that she knows how it's like to lose custody of a child, to reconsider. Terry tells Harley that she won't let Keeve become another version of Finnegan. Harley tells Terry that she's being selfish, feeling like she's only hurting Keeve and not protecting him. Terry replies by stating that she won't take advice from her husband's new toy, feeling like Finnegan would turn on her when he gets bored just like he did when she and Finnegan were married, asking Harley to leave. Can't get enough of the crazy world of In Times Like These? Then, treat yourself to a binge watch of In Times Like These. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're not ready for what's to come, but tune in anyway.